I was 17 when she told me. We were sitting on the bleachers after school, just the two of us. The late autumn sun dipped behind the football field, and the air had that chill that hinted winter was coming soon. Jess had been acting weird all week, dodging calls, missing lunch, barely replying to texts. I thought maybe we'd had a fight I didn't remember, or she was going through something she couldn't talk about. But nothing prepared me for what she said that day. "I have cancer." The words felt like a punch to the stomach. I stared at her, unsure if I'd heard her right. She was looking down, picking at her sleeves, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's leukemia. The doctors say it's advanced." I remember that my mouth went dry. My brain froze. I didn't even ask the obvious questions. What kind? What stage? What hospital? I just reached for her hand and held it. Both of us shaking. Both of us crying. Jess had been my best friend since third grade. We'd grown up next door to each other, learned to ride bikes together, had sleepovers every weekend, and shared every heartbreak, every secret. I couldn't imagine a world where she wouldn't be in it. From that moment, nothing else mattered. I quit cheerleading to spend more time with her. I skipped parties, dropped out of the school play, and even started missing classes when she had appointments and wanted company. I was always there, with snacks, with distractions, with the playlist of our favorite childhood songs. Everyone at school knew. Once Jess told me, the news spread like wildfire. Teachers gave her special extensions. Kids donated to a GoFundMe her cousin started. Strangers left notes in her locker saying things like "Stay strong" and "We're with you." Jess became this symbol of hope and bravery. And honestly, she wore it well. She shaved her head within the first month, said she wanted to own it before it owned her. She started wearing beanies and posting inspirational messages on Instagram, talking about finding light in the darkest moments. People were inspired, moved, obsessed. And I was proud. I really was. But at the same time, something started to shift between us. Jess had always been the loud one, the center of attention. I'd always been happy in the background, cheering her on. But before her diagnosis, I was finally starting to come into my own. I'd been nominated for homecoming court. I'd started seeing this amazing guy, Andrew. I'd even gotten a part-time photography gig with the local paper. All that vanished when Jess got sick. At first, I didn't mind. She needed me. And honestly, I felt guilty even thinking about anything good in my life when she might not have much life left at all. Every time I smiled, every time Andrew texted me something cute, I'd glance over at Jess, pale, quiet, sometimes trembling, and the guilt would wash over me like ice water. So I stopped smiling. I stopped dating. I stopped everything. I just became her shadow. And for months, that felt like the right thing to do. But slowly, strange things started to happen. I never went to a single doctor's appointment with her. Every time I offered to go, Jess said it would be too boring, that it was just a lot of sitting around. Once, when I pressed, she snapped at me, saying, "Why do you need proof? Don't you believe me?" I felt horrible. Of course I believed her. I mean, who lies about something like that? She started getting moodier, more controlling. If I hung out with anyone else, even for an hour, she'd go cold. Once, I skipped a movie night because my mom had the flu and needed help. Jess ghosted me for 2 days after that. When I finally got her to respond, she just sent a single text. "Must be nice to have a healthy mom." I brushed it off. She was in pain. People in pain lash out. I told myself that over and over. Still, some cracks were starting to show. Her eyebrows never fell out. Neither did her eyelashes. She said she was doing chemo, but she never looked sick. No vomiting. No weight loss. No weakness. Her Instagram was filled with carefully filtered photos of her smiling, laughing, dancing around in pastel hoodies and soft lighting. She started getting DMs from people across the country. Even local news wanted to do a piece on her bravery. And I kept thinking, shouldn't she be worse? I hated myself for even thinking it. I started Googling things at night when I couldn't sleep. What chemo side effects look like. How leukemia progresses. how fast hair falls out. But each time I get close to convincing myself something didn't add up, I'd see Jess's eyes the next day, filled with pain and gratitude, and I'd crumble. Because what if I was wrong? What kind of person doubts their best friend's illness? What kind of monster even thinks that? I told myself I was just stressed, that I was tired, that the world was cruel, and maybe Jess was just a rare case of someone handling it with grace and beauty. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted, and it was starting to grow. One day, about 8 months in, I offered to drive her to one of her treatments. She got super flustered, said her mom was already taking her. But I knew her mom was out of town visiting Jess's grandma that weekend. I lied and said I had something to drop off nearby and could wait in the parking lot. She got defensive, told me I didn't trust her. Then she cried. Hard. Why are you doing this to me? She whispered. Do you want me to die faster or something? I backed off immediately. I apologized over and over. But something inside me broke that day. Because it wasn't the first time she'd used her illness to shut me down. And it wouldn't be the last. By month 10, my entire identity had been rewritten into just one word: caretaker. It's wild how quickly everything you are, your dreams, your routines, your relationships, can shrink into a single role when someone you love is hurting. Or at least, when you think they are. I stopped applying to colleges. My grades dropped. My relationship with Andrew fizzled out quietly, mostly because I stopped replying to his texts, stopped returning his calls. And when he finally cornered me outside school one day to ask if everything was okay, all I could say was, Jess needs me right now. He just nodded, like he understood, but the hurt in his eyes told me he didn't, not really. Jess consumed everything. Every lunch break, every weekend, every spare breath in between. If I wasn't with her, I was planning something for her, coordinating fundraiser ideas, editing her posts, replying to DMs she didn't feel like answering. She said the messages from strangers overwhelmed her, that they reminded her she was dying. But the truth was, she thrived on them. I remember walking into her room once and seeing her laptop open to a tab full of unread Instagram DMs. Messages like, "You're so strong. You make me want to live better." Or, "My cousin passed from leukemia last year, but you give me hope." I stared at them longer than I should have. She noticed and quickly shut the laptop. It's too much sometimes, she said, wiping fake tears. People think I'm a hero. But I'm just trying to survive. She always had the perfect words. And I always fell for them. Until the night I didn't. It was a Friday. She told me she was going in for an overnight chemo session, and I offered to bring her dinner and keep her company for a while. She said no. Said the hospital had strict visitor rules now. I asked which hospital, and she gave me a name, St. Francis Medical. The one across town. That night, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't just doubt anymore. It was a sick, growing dread in my stomach that something wasn't right. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I drove to the hospital. I wasn't even sure what I was hoping to see. Maybe just her name on a check-in screen. A nurse who could confirm she was there. Anything to prove the small voice inside me wrong. The voice that had been whispering for months that I was being played. But when I got there, the receptionist looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "There's no patient under that name checked in today," she said. "And we don't even do oncology overnights here. Closest facility for that is County General." I stood there, frozen. My hands went cold. Are you sure?" I asked. She was. And deep down, I already knew. I didn't even cry in the car. I just drove. At first, I thought maybe there'd been a mix-up. Maybe Jess had gone to the wrong hospital or changed plans last minute. But the more I thought about it, the more memories came flooding back, memories that didn't make sense anymore. Like the time she said her blood counts were too low for visitors, but then posted a picture of herself eating sushi with her cousin. Or the time she claimed to be nauseous all day from meds, but was tagged in a TikTok doing a dance challenge with perfect energy and makeup. Piece by piece, the truth started clicking together like a puzzle I didn't know I'd been building. She wasn't sick. She had never been sick. And I'd built my entire year around a lie. The rage came after the numbness. It hit in waves. Every moment I gave up. Every friend I pushed away. Every opportunity I passed on. All because I believed her, because I loved her. But I wasn't ready to confront her yet. Not without proof. So I started watching. I told her I was feeling under the weather and needed space. She acted sympathetic but didn't push, which was already a red flag. Jess never gave me breathing room. I started checking her social media activity, watching who she interacted with, asking around at school in subtle ways. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I created a fake account. I posed as a journalism student working on a project about young cancer warriors. And I messaged her asking if she'd be willing to share her medical journey, details, photos, hospital names. I told her I wanted to inspire others with her story. She replied within minutes. "Oh my God, I'd love to." She sent over a long email filled with half-truths, dramatic moments, and even a blurry hospital pic that I recognized immediately from an old blog post she wrote about spraining her wrist in 8th grade. She thought no one would remember. But I did. And that was the final nail in the coffin. I printed everything. Screenshots, messages, photos. I even found out the GoFundMe account she'd raised thousands through had been deposited into her mom's account, who claimed to be managing it while Jess focused on recovery. It was all a game, a performance. One I'd been trapped inside for far too long. I didn't know what to do next. Part of me wanted to go nuclear, expose her to the school, the town, maybe even the news. But another part of me still remembered the little girl I used to play dress up with. The one who braided my hair before picture day. The one who swore we'd be friends forever, no matter what. And I couldn't stop asking myself, why? Why would someone fake an entire illness? Why would my best friend betray me like this? I didn't have the answers yet. But I knew one thing. I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I wasn't going to let her keep lying to everyone. Not after everything she stole from me, from the people who donated, from the classmates who cried for her. So I made a plan. I was going to confront her face to face. And this time, I wasn't going to let her twist the story. It took me 3 days to work up the courage. 3 days of silence, of ignoring Jess's texts asking if I was okay. 3 days of pretending I didn't see her latest Instagram post thanking the community for helping her stay strong in the hardest time of her life. She included a quote. "When you feel like giving up, remember why you held on so long in the first place." The comments were full of red hearts and crying emojis. "You're such an inspiration. Keep fighting, Queen. I lost my sister to cancer last year, but you give me hope." I wanted to scream. By the end of the 3rd day, I wasn't just heartbroken, I was furious. Furious at her for lying. Furious at myself for falling for it. Furious at everyone for praising her while I sat in my room surrounded by screenshots, medical records she clearly faked, and the kind of sickening realization that makes your skin crawl. I didn't tell anyone what I was about to do. Not my parents. Not my other friends. Not Andrew, who'd started texting again asking if I was okay. I had to do this alone. I showed up at Jess's house around 6 p.m. on a Sunday. Her mom's car wasn't in the driveway, probably at yoga or brunch or wherever she liked to go when she pretended everything was perfect. I knocked once. Then again, louder. Jess opened the door wearing pink sweatpants and one of those cancer warrior hoodies someone had designed for her school fundraiser. Her head was covered with a soft beige beanie, her makeup flawless. She smiled when she saw me. "Oh my God," she said. "I've been so worried." "Cut the act," I said, pushing past her into the living room. "We need to talk." She stood frozen in the doorway for a moment before closing the door. Slowly. Quietly. "Okay," she said carefully, turning to face me. "What's going on?" I pulled out my folder. I know how that sounds, dramatic. But it was dramatic. I needed her to see everything laid out. I needed her to feel the weight of the lies she told. So I placed the folder on her coffee table and opened it. Photos. Printouts. Screenshots. Her mouth twitched when she saw them. "What is this?" she asked, her voice rising slightly. "I went to St. Francis," I said calmly. "The night you said you had overnight chemo." They had no record of you. And guess what? They don't even do overnight chemo. I checked. She crossed her arms. You're stalking me now? I'm fact-checking you. Something I should have done months ago. Her eyes flickered toward the photos. One of her smiling at the mall on a day she told me she was too weak to get out of bed. Another from her cousin's birthday dinner when she'd claimed to be in the hospital getting emergency blood work. Why are you doing this? She asked, voice suddenly trembling. Are you mad at me or something? Is this about you being jealous that people are finally paying attention to me instead of you? My stomach dropped. That was the moment I knew. Deep down, some part of me had still hoped there was a chance she'd come clean. Apologize. Say she got in too deep and didn't know how to stop. But instead, she flipped it on me again. You lied about having cancer, Jess, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You manipulated everyone. You raised money under false pretenses. You took advantage of people's grief and sympathy. And you made me feel like a monster anytime I tried to breathe outside of you. Her lip curled. Oh, please. You were nothing before this. Everyone knew you as my friend, my sidekick, and you loved playing the supportive hero. You loved being the best friend of the dying girl. Don't act like you didn't. I stared at her, stunned. I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. I gave up everything for you, I whispered. I stayed up all night holding your hand when you pretended to throw up. I watched you cry about treatments you never had. I let my whole life fall apart just to hold yours together, and it was all fake? Jess laughed. Laughed. You're so dramatic, she said. It was just a white lie that got out of hand. A white lie? People cried for you. People donated to you. You shaved your head and wore cancer merch like it was some costume. You don't get it, she snapped. You'll never get it. I was invisible before this. My parents fought all the time. My dad left. My grades sucked, and nobody cared. But then this. This gave me something. It made me seen. My breath caught. That doesn't make it okay, I said. You hurt people, Jess. You hurt me, and I'm done being silent. Her eyes narrowed. You tell anyone, she said quietly, and I swear I'll say you helped me. That it was your idea. That you knew the whole time. My blood turned to ice. You wouldn't. Try me. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Two strangers in a house that once felt like home. Then I stood. You don't get to control the narrative anymore, I said. This isn't your story to twist. I gave you my loyalty, my heart, my trust, and you turned it into a lie. I walked out the door and didn't look back. But I knew what I had to do next. I wasn't just going to tell the truth. I was going to make sure everyone knew it. The morning I exposed Jess, I thought I'd feel powerful. I didn't. I felt sick. I barely slept the night before. I kept waking up in a cold sweat, replaying our conversation over and over, her laughter, her threats, her face when I called her out. I'd never seen someone look so cornered. Not sorry, not ashamed, just caught. But no matter how many times I second-guessed myself, the truth never changed. Jess had faked cancer, and the world needed to know. I started with the school. I emailed the vice principal, Miss Harper, and attached everything. Screenshots of Jess admitting to lies in our texts, photos of her at parties and events during so-called hospital days, her fake hospital story, and the breakdown of the GoFund money. I made sure every sentence was calm, respectful, and focused on facts. I didn't want this to feel like revenge. It wasn't. This was justice. I also emailed the local newspaper, the same one that had once run a glowing article about Jess's inspirational strength in the face of adversity. I attached the same folder. Then I posted on my own Instagram. I didn't tag her. I didn't include her full name, but everyone knew. The post was just a picture of a hospital hallway, empty, silent, dimly lit, with a caption that said, "Some people fake illnesses to get attention. Some steal money from grieving families. Some manipulate their best friends and call it love. And some of us stay quiet for too long. Not anymore." Full story in my bio. I linked to a Google Drive with the evidence. Within hours, it exploded. People started messaging me. People from school. From our town. even strangers who donated to Jess's fundraiser. The post got shared hundreds of times. Classmates reposted it with captions like WTF and I knew something didn't feel right. Others were angrier. I lost someone to leukemia last year. This is disgusting. But the part that hit hardest? The silence from Jess. No response. No apology. Not even a denial. She went completely dark. Her Instagram account vanished within 24 hours. So did the GoFundMe page. I heard later that her mom tried to delete everything once the school got involved. But it was too late. People had saved screenshots. I wasn't the only one documenting the truth. At school, it was like walking through a crime scene. Everyone whispered. Some stared. Some came up to hug me or apologize for not seeing it sooner. A few people even cried. Jess didn't come to school that week, or the week after. I heard she'd been pulled out, that she was taking time to heal, whatever that meant. One girl said she saw her mom at the grocery store, looking like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Another said Jess was still denying everything, claiming I had twisted things, that I was jealous, that it was more complicated than people understood. But it wasn't. It was actually pretty simple. She lied. And I told the truth. The school held a special meeting. Ms. Harper called me in to thank me, said I'd done the right thing, that they were reviewing the situation carefully. I don't know what came of it. Jess never came back. Some people said her family moved. Others said she was taking online classes until graduation. The GoFundMe money, over $9,000, was flagged and frozen. People started filing refund requests. There was talk of legal action. I don't know what her family did after that. Part of me wanted to track every detail. Another part just wanted to move on. Because the worst part wasn't the money. It wasn't the lies. It was losing the person I thought was my best friend. See, Jess and I used to dream about our futures together. College dorms. Road trips. Matching tattoos. Sitting on each other's porches at 80 years old, laughing about our high school crushes. We used to say we were soulmates. And now I wasn't even sure I'd ever really known her. A few weeks later, I sat alone at lunch. People tried to include me, but I wasn't ready. I needed space. Time to breathe. To rebuild. Andrew came over one day. He brought me my favorite smoothie and just sat down like nothing had ever changed. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I should have said something. I knew something was off, but I didn't want to make it worse. I nodded. It's okay. I didn't want to believe it either. We didn't talk about Jess after that. We didn't need to. The damage she left behind was already written on all of us. But as time passed, something strange started to happen. People stopped whispering. The stares faded. I started sleeping through the night again. I joined the school paper and wrote a piece about truth and trust that got published statewide. Colleges started reaching out again. I was healing. One day, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name in messy handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of notebook paper. It said, I'm sorry you felt betrayed. I didn't know how else to make people see me. I didn't want to disappear. I didn't mean to hurt you. You were the only person I ever really loved, Jay. I read it once. Then I burned it. Because Jess had already disappeared. She disappeared the moment she turned my loyalty into her weapon. The moment she turned illness into attention. The moment she turned friendship into a lie. I wasn't going to carry her anymore. She made her choices. And now, I was making mine. It's been almost a year. 1 full year since Jess told me she was dying. 1 full year since I dropped everything, my dreams, my joy, my whole identity, to walk beside her on what I thought was her final journey. And now, 1 full year since I found out that journey never existed. I still think about her sometimes. Not in the same way I used to, not with that warm ache you feel for someone you miss. It's different now. It's like looking at an old photo of someone who no longer exists. The girl in that memory isn't real anymore. She was replaced by someone I never saw coming. And that's what haunts me the most. Because I didn't just lose a friend, I lost faith in myself. For so long, I asked the same question over and over again. How could I not see it? How could I let myself get played for so long? How could I give my whole heart, my whole life, to someone who used it like a stage prop? But now, with distance, I know the answer. Because I loved her. And when you love someone that deeply, your brain goes quiet. You see what you want to see. You believe what you need to believe. Jess didn't just lie about being sick. She manipulated everyone around her into playing roles in a story she wrote for herself. And the part she gave me, the loyal best friend. The one who sacrifices everything to hold her hand at the edge of life. I played that part so well, I forgot who I really was. But I remember now. I remember the girl who used to dream of photographing oceans and writing poetry and falling in love without guilt. I remember the girl who used to laugh without looking over her shoulder for approval. I remember the girl who used to make plans that didn't involve fixing someone else's mess. That girl? She's back. Not the same, she's stronger, sharper, maybe a little sadder, but definitely wiser. I applied to 5 colleges this year. Got into 3. I wrote about Jess in my personal statement, but not in the way you'd think. I didn't mention her name. I didn't describe the betrayal. I just wrote about how sometimes the hardest lessons don't come from enemies, but from the people you take a bullet for, and how surviving those lessons doesn't make you bitter, it makes you free. That essay got me into UCLA. And yes, I still have trust issues. I'd be lying if I said I didn't flinch a little when people tell me their problems. I always wonder, is this real? Is this another performance? But I also know that I can't let Jess ruin the way I connect with the world. That's how people like her win. So I give people chances. Carefully. Cautiously. But I give them. Andrew and I reconnected over the summer. Nothing serious, just coffee now and then, long walks, slow conversations. I told him everything. And when I finished, he didn't look at me with pity. He just said, "You didn't fail her. She failed you." That sentence stayed with me for weeks. Because he was right. I did everything a best friend is supposed to do. I was loyal, present, loving. And none of that was wasted, even if she didn't deserve it, because it taught me what kind of person I am. I'm someone who shows up. Even when it's hard. Even when it hurts. Even when the person I'm showing up for doesn't show up back. That's not weakness. That's strength. And it took losing Jess to realize that. The community hasn't forgotten either. The school installed new guidelines for fundraisers, stricter verification for medical claims, and even hosted a workshop on digital ethics and emotional manipulation. They didn't name her, but everyone knew. She became a cautionary tale. But I don't think she ever saw it that way. Last I heard, her family moved across the state. A friend of a friend said she started fresh at a different school and was doing fine. I don't know what that means. I don't know if she still tells stories, or if she ever came clean to herself. I doubt I'll ever get the apology I deserve. But here's what I have gotten. Peace. Perspective. Power over my own narrative again. And maybe that's enough. Sometimes, I walk past the bleachers where Jess first told me she was dying. The spot where she looked me in the eyes and sold me the biggest lie of my life. I used to avoid that place. Now I sit there sometimes, close my eyes, and just breathe. I imagine myself whispering to the version of me who sat there all those months ago. The girl who had no idea how bad it would get. The girl who was about to lose everything for someone who didn't deserve her. The girl who still believed. And I want to tell her, you're going to be okay. Because she is. Because I am.